Can you imagine Eternal Darkness on like the Switch or something, and it just like closes down the game, goes to the web browser, and starts entering Pornhub?
The GameCube was home to more than just family-friendly experiences. It was also host to some terrifying horror games. Today, Austin Hargrave, Jeff Fabre, Jared Knabenbauer, and Shane Gill join me, Forrest Lee, as we decide which of these games scares us more. It's the Resident Evil remake and Eternal Darkness, Sanity's Requiem, and this is Madness.
Welcome to an extra scary episode of GameCube Madness. We're talking about horror games that didn't make it onto the bracket. It's Eternal Darkness, Sanity's Requiem, versus the Resident Evil remake.
Well,
both of these games are awesome.
These are some good-ass games.
These are really good GameCube games.
how did these not make...
I don't know.
No one.
There's just too many good games.
Got taste.
Sonic 2?
Sonic 2?
Yeah, come on.
Sonic 2?
Remake has no excuse. Nobody played Eternal Darkness.
Yeah.
Nobody.
Yeah.
I think they sold fewer than 1 million copies.
Which is a damn shame, because Eternal Darkness, Sanity's Requiem, again, one of the best GameCube exclusives out there at all. It was the first Nintendo game that they published that was rated mature. That was a big deal.
It was a big deal.
Let's cut to the chase. The obvious. Let's get this out of the way. Graphics. One is way better than the other.
Yeah, okay. The Resident Evil remake.
Yeah.
The Resident Evil remake
Resident Evil
looks
remake
fucking amazing.
still looks good.
I recently played the remastered version, and it obviously looks better. Like the PC remastered version.
Just because it's in a higher resolution. So
Yeah. We were watching even a YouTube video of it, and I'm like, dang, I forgot how good it looked. Like, it looks so good.
It and Metroid Prime really have both. Those are the two games I think have aged the best from the GameCube.
Pre-rendered backgrounds go a long way.
Yes, they do.
It helps a lot.
Yeah, that I was noticing how high of a polygon count Jill had on her, and like that would be why.
Which, you look at Eternal Darkness, and the character models are definitely way rougher looking. And you could argue it's because it started off as a Nintendo 64 game, but I think it's more because all the environments and cutscenes were real time.
Yeah.
So that also allowed them to do a lot more like camera movements with all the different areas they're going through. So it kept things way more dynamic. For kind of a Resident Evil comparison, like Code Veronica.
Well, Resident Evil 0 also started out as an N64 game.
That's right.
And that has pre-rendered backgrounds and does look better than Eternal Darkness.
Yeah. They both do.
Yeah, I think
They both use cinematic angles, though. Like, in the lighting, especially in Resident Evil 0, is like really well done, I feel like, in comparison to Eternal Darkness.
Yeah, just visually, I do think the Resident Evil game blows Eternal Darkness out of the water.
graphically, absolutely.
And even, like, I still, looking back, and I think Eternal Darkness is still just one of the rougher looking GameCube games. Like, there's a lot.
Especially when you get up close in the cutscenes.
Yeah, there's a lot more. I'm like, oh, there's a lot of GameCube games that look way better. Pretty much almost anything from, like, the main bracket looks better than Eternal Darkness. But the graphics weren't really the selling point.
It was also, you have to keep in mind, it was a team of basically indie developers.
At the time, yeah.
Yeah, with a super small studio. This was developed by Silicon Knights, who went on to do such amazing things as
Too Human, X-Men, Destiny,
and Metal Gear 2.
and Metal Gear Twin Snakes.
Yeah, the GameCube
which
port.
was fine.
Yeah.
Fine. I think sound is also like a really big comparison between the two.
You have to have good sound in a horror game.
Yes,
Yeah,
and
you
this
do.
is another edge that I give to Resident Evil.
The zombies sound kind of pretty scary.
Yeah.
They did better with like the impact of gun noises going through doors, atmospheric. I think one of the main reasons why is that Eternal Darkness had a lot more music and soundtrack going, whereas Resident Evil was not afraid to just
Like
leave
ambient.
you alone in your environment with nothing there, like make you feel alone. So I still think the sound design was better than
like
Resident
music can
Evil.
be a powerful thing to make you feel scared, but in like a real life scary situation, the absence of noise can be deafening, and
silence is uncomfortable.
Like playing freaking Mario Brothers with no sound is spooky. Dude. Like imagine with zombies running
the boo
around.
houses.
Yeah. spooky.
Yeah, like Resident or Eternal Darkness doesn't really have like music. It just has kind of like a track of noise to be like spooky, be like
Like a room tone.
yeah, like the whole time.
Going through a haunted house.
Yeah. So that really, I don't think that like enhanced like the spookiness factor of Eternal Darkness by any means.
Can we talk about something that did enhance the spookiness factor of
Yes.
Eternal Darkness? And this is one of the best mechanics that's not used in literally any other game because Nintendo copyrighted it. The Sanity system.
Oh my goodness, this was the best.
He brought it up.
I thought we could get through the whole episode without talking.
He
about
went there.
He went
This
there.
game literally f***ed with you. It like,
it. Literally.
if you've lost a resource that you have called Sanity and it gets really low, the game will start like all of a sudden, like your TV's volume goes down, or like an overlay comes up that looks like your TV's volume is going down, and you're like, I'm not touching my control, the like remote control. What's going on?
Or your character's head just falls off.
Yeah.
Like
Or-
stuff like that. Like there was some stuff in game, and then there was other stuff that was sort of like fourth wall-ish stuff.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It's like there's a lot of stuff that happens in the game that makes you like look around your immediate area, like what's happening? Like, did I do
Am I
something?
going crazy?
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
It was a lot of subtle effects too. The lower Lorra got, the more the camera angle just shifted.
Yeah.
Yeah, it became like a
Even-
touch angle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it got really bad. Like you said, it was like the head exploding. The more like like insidious ones would be like the fourth wall breaking ones, where you go to save the game, you press A to save, and a little message pops up that says deleting, and you see that bar fill up. You're like, what? No! And then flash of white, you hear your character scream and realize like you just went insane for just a brief moment, or doing a healing spell and having your body explode, or one of like the best gameplay tropes of all time. Right before a boss fight, you walk into a room and there's just like ammo, healing supplies, grenades like all over. And there's like, oh yeah, and you pick it all up. Flash of white, there's nothing there, and you're just like, gosh.
no.
But even without the insanity effects, there's still like some really scary moments in Eternal Darkness, and they're the equivalent of jump scares. But for the longest time, I've always said I'm not easily scared by video games at all. But Eternal Darkness was absolutely one of them. Anyone who's played the game, the bathtub, and the hanging man. Oh my god. That got me so bad each time. That's all I'll say. That's all I'll say about it.
One cool thing about Eternal Darkness that I don't think as many people talk about is you could actually target their limbs and stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you could hit them in the torso, you could hit them in the head. I mean, Resident Evil, you can shoot their head off. But in this version, and in the remake of 1, you can't shoot their legs off, I don't think. You can only aim up, right? If I'm
You
recalling
can
correctly.
aim down as well, but it's the more like hit them when they're crawling around rather than like target their legs or anything.
you can't like target their limbs and like you do that strategically. And in Eternal Darkness, you could do that. I feel like it was a pretty early game for that kind of system, and also like it was melee too. So there wasn't very many melee games where it's like, let me cut their arms off. Like
Yeah, there's a lot of melee combat in that game. Well, I was gonna say they mostly kind of controlled the same, right?
no, actually, Eternal Darkness you could control at in any angle. And
This, like control-wise, Eternal Darkness is better. It doesn't have the tank controls at all. Like if you push that direction, your character moves in that direction, and the aiming is a big part because either with the melee combat or even the few characters that get firearms, being able to point up at their head and having that limb flash is a big thing. Or if you see a monster with like long sickle-like claws and being able to take off their arms and render them close to useless is also really helpful. Having finisher moves when they're on the ground is also super cool. 'Cause that restores sanity.
I feel like just because I'm worried that not a whole lot of people will have played like Eternal Darkness, the basic setup of that game is you play a woman named Alex Roivas. Very subtle name there. It's Savior backwards.
ooh,
Spoilers. And she's in this mansion and finds like a book that lets. It's like flashbacks back to older characters, like
Roman times,
Yeah.
Persian.
I think that's really cool, actually.
You play like about a dozen different characters, all in different time periods. Sometimes in the same locations, sometimes in completely new ones. But they all have like different weapons they can use.
Yeah.
They all
different finishing moves,
different finishing moves. But they also had a magic system where you collected different runes and you could like collect them together to do different kinds of spells.
It was kind of complicated, if I recall a little bit.
It wasn't too bad.
Maybe I'm just dumb. I don't know.
You're not dumb.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I feel like control-wise, Eternal Darkness is better. But I think gameplay-wise, Resident Evil is still better.
Part of it,
You still have like those classic puzzles, and you still kind of are like you're still limited by like what's happening, so it creates more of like a horror experience, I guess. Like I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, in Eternal Darkness, you're kind of just going through. Like, there's not a whole lot of puzzles or anything. At least when you're playing the characters.
Certain characters, yes.
Personally, I wouldn't say Eternal Darkness's controls are better. I'd just say you have more freedom of movement.
Oh yeah, you,
Like it has a different
that's
style.
fair.
I think part of the tank control's appeal in Resident Evil is that you're slow to respond
Yeah, I was
to
gonna say
things,
something
which
similar.
adds to the horror.
I
Yeah.
agree with you on that
kinda what
point,
I was saying
but I
a
still
little bit.
feel the targeting system of Eternal Darkness is just better.
It's certainly easier to tell what you're aiming at when you're playing Eternal Darkness as opposed to Resident Evil. You're just like, I hope
yeah,
I
that-
hit
that,
him. I'm kind of like angling.
Yeah,
in a
it's good
general
enough that system. I'm not saying it was directly picked up from Eternal Darkness, but future Resident Evil games took that system and like,
Kind of, yeah.
yeah, like in Resident Evil 2 remake, you can shoot out the legs and they crawl,
Yeah.
like that sort of stuff.
Just to be fair, I don't know if Eternal Darkness was the first to do that.
no.
Well,
one of
I
the
think
other
Eternal
scenarios
Darkness
that
I'm
like
just,
made
like-
a lot of those types of mechanics kind of more mainstream. A
Well,
little bit.
I'm
Like people
not-
kind of like or like new horror games kind of took elements from Eternal Darkness.
I recall when
okay,
games
yeah.
like Amnesia, but they more or less had sanity effects.
Yeah.
And like people were like comparing it to Eternal Darkness, Sanity's Requiem. So another big thing that I kind of argue why the gameplay of Resident Evil is better is that it might sound kind of weird to say, but Resident Evil has a certain degree of like a Metroidvania to it, where like you see areas and you know you can't get to it because you need certain items, or in this case, keys, to go around. So the exploration is way better, whereas Eternal Darkness is far more linear
Yeah,
in
I
a
agree,
lot of the
yeah.
different
Yeah.
stages.
Like you're
I'm
just
sure
kind of
there are
going
puzzles
through
to
the
get through,
story.
but the exploration I feel in Resident Evil is so much cooler.
It's literally like you're reading a story in a book, which is
Yeah.
yeah.
But another big thing I think is that Eternal Darkness is a scary game. The sanity effects will mess with your brain so much. And oh my god, what a ride the first time through.
Yeah, and one thing I was
Yeah.
gonna say, it's hard to not bring up the fact that Eternal Darkness, replaying it now, some of the sanity effects
It doesn't work.
don't really work
Yeah.
anymore. Because it's like, I'm playing on my HD TV, and it's like all of a sudden, like, I have CRT volume going down, like, that doesn't, that's, what year is it?
UI has been updated.
Yeah,
I won't be fooled by this.
And also when you know about it, like Jared said going in,
Yeah.
if you know exactly what the game is part why, like, you know, realistically, you should probably know as little as possible about Eternal Darkness.
No,
going in.
I think we're trying to do a pretty good job of not
Trying, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
spoiling a lot of the really cool stuff.
Yeah.
yeah.
Again, like, but like that first time through, oh man, what a ride. It's like reading a book for the first time.
It feels like if this was the sort of game that was made today, they would have randomized some of those effects,
Yes.
probably.
Yeah.
And that's just a constraint of the time.
I would say not even first time through. Like the first time you encounter a fourth wall breaking effect, then you're on the lookout for what might also be fourth wall breaking. Like if you get
Yeah.
the
You're, like,
volume
questioning
control,
everything.
like if you get the volume control, and then later on you get like the controller unplugging error that comes up.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
you're like, I'm not sure if that's real. And it's like kind of loses its luster as the game goes on.
yeah.
A little bit, but some of them you don't really need to. I mean, like it can just turn off, like and go blank. I mean, that's spooky even if you know it's even if you know what's happening. It's like
You have to
be like
double
5
check.
enemies attacking
Yeah.
you, and the like freaking screen just goes off for like 2 seconds. So you don't you know, like that's kind of spooky in and of itself. But yeah, some of the sanity effects, either the second time through or especially now, kind of seem a little gimmicky, less spooky, and more just like kind of annoying. Like I don't know.
Between the two, the Resident Evil remake is way better on replay. Because Eternal Darkness actually encourages replaying it 3 times. Because at the beginning of the game, you pick basically like one of 3 different deities that the main villain ends up worshipping, each one affecting your health more, your sanity more, and your magic meter more. And you have to beat it 3 times to get the true ending involving Mantarok, the 4th god. And like the sanity effects, it's like you're still more or less playing the same game. It's just that one time you lose more health, one time you lose more sanity, the other time you lose more magic. Whereas with Resident Evil, you have the different characters with different paths, with different restrictions. So it plays differently. So I think the replayability of Resident Evil is still better.
Absolutely. How long is Eternal Darkness? I actually don't remember. Like a playthrough of the game?
8 hours?
Yeah, 8-10 hours.
Okay, so about the same length for
Give or take.
both games, yeah.
Oh man, I also realized how much the Resident Evil remake added over the PS1 version.
Oh, yeah.
This is now a
Added a
one-to-one
lot of
remake,
areas.
like say Sonic Adventure. Like they added so many new
That's a
things.
scary game.
Yeah. Like they added a lot of things to the Resident Evil remake that actually just made it more than a graphical upgrade. And I that's absolutely worth
New
mentioning.
rooms, new puzzles, the creepy woman in the basement.
Yeah, Lisa Trevor was an all-new thing. The Crimson Head was like an all-new element, and having to burn the zombies, otherwise you'll get punished for it later, was also a new thing.
I forgot that was.
Oh yeah, and it was spooky. The fact that zombies can now go upstairs.
They learned to climb!
Game change.
You're like, no! It was a big thing, and then now they vomit.
Gross!
That's
Yeah, so I do think it's worth mentioning that the remake is more than just a graphical upgrade. They actually added quite a bit to the original experience, and also made it lore-wise a little more cohesive.
Yeah, they did. They
2 and 3.
Yeah.
they added stuff like from future games back into the first one,
They,
right? Like referential.
Yeah,
things.
they like teased at it.
Yeah.
I know we moved on past the sanity effects,
no. Jump back in.
but to help give you an idea of how much this game wanted to with you, a lot of the games when you first bought it, took off the shrink wrap and opened it up, it was empty because they hid the CD inside the instruction manual just to help give you an idea of how much this is going to
I
screw with you.
actually didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
I don't think they did it on the first run, but like later ones, they did that on purpose, just like the smallest way to get you prepared. Like,
How many people do you think went back to the store?
yeah.
The game's not in there.
Quite a bit, because I worked at GameStop at the time, and people were mad.
That is
You
like
stole my game, bro, Jared!
I can just imagine him shaking it angrily and then the disc falls out.
that is the coolest, worst idea.
No, terrible
Ever
idea.
heard.
You shouldn't do that.
That what a cool
But it
game.
shows how ballsy they were,
Yeah.
though.
I
Which
really-
is, which
They were really selling it.
Yeah, they really were all in on the whole, like, the whole insomnia, like,
This-
screw with you aspect of it.
This is a game I wish that they would bring back in some capacity. Like they never will.
Yeah.
they're people are too afraid.
I
to
mean,
release a game
Silicon
like that.
Knights is dead now, deservedly.
Yeah.
But this is another one of those series with such a brilliant concept where it's been more than a decade since. Imagine the kind of sanity effects they could do
Yeah.
now.
Especially now that technology's improved. People are just more creative with what they can do with games now. Like we were saying, like Amnesia. They could have rebranded Amnesia as an Eternal Darkness game, and like added a bunch of like fourth wall breaking, like more fourth wall breaking stuff. That would have been rad. Like
Well, could
There's
they
so
not
much you
do
can do
that
with
because of the copyright?
yeah, Nintendo owns the trademark on the Sanity system.
So did, like-
people just can't use it.
Yeah, I knew that, but like specifically, like I mean, did
They could do something similar. But
yeah.
they couldn't like
okay, yeah,
have
just
like a sanity meter. That,
like your volume
did.
can't go down.
I'm sure you can do
Nintendo
that.
owns volume going down.
I'm sure you can do that.
probably just the name.
It's more like the idea.
No, I
of-
think they did trademark some of the mechanics of it.
Yeah.
I think it's more the like you can't have a bar that's full, like then slowly goes down and the closer it gets to empty, crazier stuff happens.
Yeah. So they try to get around it by like, don't be in shadows, or
Yeah.
your vision gets messed up.
Okay.
Yeah, it was different enough to not get sued.
That's such a weird thing to be able to trademark.
Actually, that might be coming out of trademark soon.
20 years?
Something like that. I know the Namco trademark on
Mini games versus during loading times.
Yeah, that's run out.
Yeah.
Oh.
Either way, make a new Eternal Darkness.
Please.
It's like what a brilliant concept for a series.
Yeah.
It just needs updating.
They should go more with it.
Let's vote.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so.
Anyone want to go first?
Sure. Let's start on this one. I really enjoy the Resident Evil series. And I wasn't like an original fan from PS1 by any means, because like I really got into the series thanks to Resident Evil 4, and then into like Resident Evil 1 and all the others, whatever. So like those are really good games. But that game didn't really scare me. Eternal Darkness did. Like a lot of the jump scares and the sanity effects were excellent. However, when I think of Eternal Darkness, the only way you can have fun with that game is if you let the sanity effects happen
Yeah.
and like intentionally keep your sanity meter low when at any point in time you can just cast a healing spell to heal your sanity and like entirely remove that
Like the horror element almost.
that very core concept like in there. You can just remove it.
The fun horror element is technically a punishment.
Yeah, and you
Yeah.
can just like heal it and not have to worry about it, and then who cares? And like I said before, amazing the first time through, but it's only good that one time, whereas Resident Evil is still fun to play on multiple replays. So I'm gonna give my vote to Resident Evil.
I was actually considering voting for Eternal Darkness, but I completely forgot that you're totally right about that. Most of the time I was playing through it, I ended up like taking damage intentionally just so I could lower my sanity meter so I could see what happened. I completely forgot about that. Yeah, so I'll vote for Resident Evil.
I think that's a really good point, but I also think that like Eternal Darkness might be a little bit like more ambitious with what it's trying to do. And even though you kind of have to intentionally hurt yourself to get the insanity effects, I still think they were really unique and cool for their time, and they were actually kind of scary, and they made you like look outside of the game itself into like what's going on like next to you physically, which is like such a mind so I really appreciate that a lot. So I think I'm gonna go Eternal Darkness.
When I played Eternal Darkness and I got like the fourth wall breaking stuff, I felt kind of like, even though it was scary and cool, that I was brought out of the experience a little bit. Whereas when I'm playing Resident Evil, I feel like I am in this mansion and I need to stay alive and it's scary.
Yeah.
And I think for that reason, I'm going to vote Resident Evil.
Fair enough. I think we don't have a lot of Madness matchups where it's super close, where it's like 49-51.
Yeah.
I think this is another one of those, and for me, honestly, it's a flip of a coin. I'm gonna go Eternal Darkness just because it's
Yay, I'm not alone.
It's such a cool, unique concept.
Oh, it's so good.
Do we know? Did Silicon Knights do Twin Snakes or Eternal Darkness first?
They did Eternal Darkness first.
Okay.
And it's because of Eternal Darkness, Miyamoto suggested to Kojima about Twin Snakes.
A lot of it is super similar to the Psycho Mantis stuff.
Yeah.
That like, that's just an interesting maybe coincidence. Because Psycho Mantis existed way before.
Yeah.
I was kind of joking around earlier, but I really was thinking about voting for Eternal Darkness just on the sheer like ambitiousness of the title.
Oh yeah,
That's what I said.
It's
I
just
absolutely
so
agree.
hard to vote against Resident Evil 1
Those are
remastered.
good games.
It's just so good.
Again, like you could look at what they wanted to go for, but you also have to realize I could see that.
It could be up here.
I could see that, but the execution is right here, and that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, and the fact that you can really only play it once.
Yeah.
I mean, you can play it more than once, but like you get that same experience.
You gotta play it like super far apart.
This-
You
yeah,
you have to
forget
know
some
nothing-
stuff.
And you have to know nothing about it going in.
Eternal
Like,
Darkness is very much it's a game and an IP that would really, really do well with either a sequel or a remake that just
Dude, be all over YouTube.
yeah.
People be
Dude,
playing that
play-
stuff. It's
Oh
like
my
the
God.
YouTube bait game.
Yeah. Nintendo, what are you thinking? Get on that.
Anytime I play a horror game, everyone always recommends like you should play Eternal Darkness on the channel. I was like, yeah, I agree, but I've already played it. It's not gonna work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you imagine Eternal Darkness on like the Switch or something, and it just like closes down the game, goes to the web browser, and starts entering Pornhub? And you're just on a train, and you're like, oh.
I'm not doing this, I swear!
Who do you think should have won? Let us know down below. And if you enjoyed this, remember to hit those like and subscribe buttons for new episodes of Madness every Tuesday and Thursday. We've got a special surprise for you next Thursday before the next season on Gen 1 Pokemon Evolution line starts next week.